Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the most popular series among Living Dead Dolls fans, Series 19. Series 19 is also known as the Children of the Night series because they are all vampires. I can't wait to get into talking about them. I am going to talk about the least unpopular to the MVD doll of the series, though the MVD doll is a two-way tie, to be perfectly honest. But for me, I think all the dolls are wonderful and they're excellent. Do I have a favorite? Yeah, I have a favorite, but I also have the dolls within the series. I feel like they're very underrated in comparison to the ones that are most popular in the series. So let's start getting into Series 19. Now, Series 19 came at a very opportune time. It was released in 2010, and by 2010, vampires, both on the silver screen and the small screen in living rooms, were all the rage. You had Twilight, who started the franchise, the movies, in 2008. You also had True Blood, which was around at that time. And you had the Vampire Diaries. So Mezco really picked the right time to release a series of vampires. And I feel because of when they released it, I feel Series 19, with the characters, they have been informed by many cultural influences that had vampires, whether it's on TV or in the movies. In my opinion, I feel that's why they all have a very distinct look about them. And I feel there's some that you can confidently say that is what the inspiration was, and some is speculation on my part, doing my research. So the first doll I'm going to talk about is Ahana. Now, I think Ahana is adorable. She's really cute. I feel she's underrated. In comparison to the other girls, she's very simple. And to me, she reminds me of a really good vampire movie called Let the Right One In. If you're not familiar with that movie, it's I believe it's a Norwegian film or a Danish film. I can't remember. And it's about a little boy, about 9 or 10 years old, and he befriends a girl the same age. He does not know that she is a vampire. And Ahana reminds me of that little girl vampire. Here's her chipboard. Now, with the exception of Orchid, I have all the chipboards on hand because of the variants. I do have Orchid's chipboard. I just can't find it. I have no idea where it disappeared to. Okay? And her death date is an odd death date. I tried doing research. I tried seeing in terms of any old time vampire movies came out or literature. And her death date is a very famous one. It's the theatrical release of Gone with the Wind. So her death date is December 15th, 1939, which I thought was a kind of a curious date to choose for a doll that is a vampire. But that's her death date from all intents and purposes of my research. And she died from hemophilia, which is a blood disorder. When someone gets cut, the blood doesn't. I'm sorry. When someone gets cut, the blood doesn't clot properly, and so apparently she died from that. Now, her outfit, like I said, is very schoolgirl coded. A little girl. So she has this cute little dress. She has this brown coat, which makes me think of the girl from Let the Right One In. Because considering when the movie takes place, it is in the winter time. And she has this weird rooting of hair. It's very thin because it's only here that she has hair, because it's supposed to fit her head, her hood on her head. Okay, but the material they use for her clothing is really nice. She has thick black tights, traditional Mary Jane's, of course, and I just love her face. And that's another thing too with these dolls, that they have different fang design. So hers is more in line with Lilith, who actually has molded on teeth right here. Really gnarly. And I just think she's such a sweet character. I mean, I know the blood and teeth says otherwise, but I just think she's just precious. I really do. She is not very expensive on the secondary market. Now we're just talking about her regular doll. She goes from $50 to $60. When I first bought her, she was $18 on Craigslist. I know. And she was loose. She didn't even have her chipboard. I had to hunt down her chipboard from fellow collectors. And that wasn't too difficult, but that's the thing, that when you try to save money, there's certain things that are getting harder to acquire when you buy like loose dolls. Death certificates and their chipboards are really hard to get. I actually was very lucky to have all the death certificates with my dolls. It's the chipboards. Some have come with them, some have not had them, and I had to seek them out. And for Ahana, I had to seek hers out. And like I said, she's an adorable doll, and I think she's worth getting. I mean, every doll in Series 19 is worth getting. But she definitely will be the easiest to get, and that is Ahana. Next is actually my favorite one in terms of the underrated dolls, and that is Sanguis. Now, Sanguis, her death date is related to a vampire TV show. It's a mini-series called Salem's Lot. It was a mini-series based on the Stephen King novel that debuted in the late 70s. Her name is a Latin word meaning blood or bloodshed. Here's her chipboard. I'm going to pause. Sorry, to get that in focus. Okay. And what I love about her is, like, look at her. Look how prim and proper she looks. I love her fan accessory. She's the only one of the dolls that has an accessory. It's a paper fan. I've never removed it from her hand. If you want to see it up close, it's cupped. Her hand is cupped, and the fan is inside it. Okay? And the back, it has a sulfur symbol. Really cute. I love the little pillbox hat she has with a little veil. Now, she also has Lilith's teeth. And she also has Lilith's eyes. So it definitely reminds me of Lilith's eyes. And again, I just love her dress. Look at these little fingerless gloves. Now, to me, this is my observation. She reminds me of so with the show True Blood, there was a vampire queen. Her name was Sophie, Queen Sophie, Queen of Louisiana, and she was a young vampire in the books. Because True Blood is based on a book series. She was only 14, 15 at the time. And that's another thing with these dolls. They're all kids in their descriptions on their chipboard. So they're all kids. So I guess the children of the night. So that's why she possibly could be a reference to True Blood. Because she does seem European. She seems French. Um, very much so. Or if you could think of a Interview with the Vampire, which also took place in Louisiana as well. But I feel like she has a lot of little Easter eggs about her in reference to TV shows and movies. And again, she doesn't command a lot of money compared to Ahana. She is a little bit more. She's between $100 to $150. I paid $52 for her, and like I said, her design is amazing. She even has these little netted tights. Look, she even has little black socks with lace detail. Like, come on. How gorgeous is she? I just love her. And, like I said, she's not as popular, but I think she's getting up there just because, I mean, look at her. I think she really has grown in appeal over the years, and I just think she's adorable. And that is Sanguis. Next is Haymon. Now, so it was interesting looking the research of his name. Now I pronounce it as Haymon. Some people say Haymon, or there's another way to say his name, but Haymon reminds me of a character from the Greek tragedy Antigone. So that's how I would pronounce his name. This is his chipboard. Now his death date is an interesting one. So everyone knows Bram Stoker. They credit him with, kind of, I don't want to say creating, but he really redefined the vampire genre. But there was actually an author before him that some of the elements in Bram Stoker's story, he got it from this author. So Haymon's death date is the same death date as an author named John Polidor. He was a horror writer who wrote a short story called The Vampire, and that's vampire with a Y-R, a tale. And he also was a medical doctor, too, to a famous poet by the name of Lord Byron. And it's considered the first modern vampire story, which changed the genre. And so before vampires, because vampires have been talked about for centuries, but mainly as these creepy dead things, more like on the ghoulish side. They're ghouls. And in his story, he made them sexy, aristocratic, rich people, that they were able to blend into a high society. And that's something that's in Bram Stoker's novel of Dracula. And he died very young. I was very surprised when I looked. I think he was only in his late 20s, just barely 30. Very sad. Now, Haymon, he no doubt reminds me of the lead vampire played by Danny Houston in 30 Days of Night, if you're familiar with that movie. He, just right off the bat, he reminds me of that character. Now, he has, as part of his mold, it's not painted on, this burnt cross on his head. Okay, and he has blood dripping on his neck. And he has these bloodshot eyes. Oh, there's a cross. And he has a simple design to him in comparison to the ladies. But again, I really believe it's based on that character from 30 Days of Night, which came out a couple of years before this series was released. Okay? And his hair is flocked. So he has flocked hair. Easily traps dust, unfortunately. And again, he's very simple in design. His shirt is purposely made to look like it's dirty. He has these boots. They go up to here. I'm not going to pull up his pants. They're kind of tight. And I actually bought him along with Agana, he also was $18 from Craigslist. I know, it's insane. And he is one of the few male dolls who actually has a long sleeve shirt. Usually they cut it at the arms, to fit it through the coat, but I guess they had the money and the budget to give him full long sleeves. I'm telling you, Series 19, they did not take any shortcuts with their design. He just looks fabulous. Oh, I almost forgot his chipboard. There you go. And again, really well-made doll, really cool doll. And anything else? Nope, I think that's it. That's all I have to say about Haymon. So the MVD, or the two-way tie, I'll start with Sabatha Blood. She is very popular in this series. I mean, look at her. She's gorgeous. Now, she doesn't have any fangs like the other girls. And she has cat eyes, which I thought was very interesting. And they actually go back to cat eyes in series 25 with the character of Luna. She has this beautiful red hair. Like, look at her hair. So cute. Now, she definitely... Now, when I first saw her, she does seem to be influenced by something in the Japanese manga space or anime. So when I was doing research on her, so there is a Japanese movie called Saya from Blood, The Last Vampire, or The Last Vampire Hunter. Now, her character, the character from that movie, her school outfit is very similar to actually the variant in the back. It's black and white, but it definitely does seem like that is the inspiration. And again, no cheapening on the outfit. So she has this little jacket of sorts by Velcro. I think it's connected to the dress. I'm not sure. I don't want to do a complete undressing. She has this pleated skirt. She has these really nice material socks. Like, it's like almost satin-like. And of course, the traditional Mary Janes. Like, I'm telling you, none of these dolls, they skimped out in the wardrobe area. And she's just stunning. She's just really gorgeous. Now, she goes for about $125 to $250. I paid $72 for her. Her death date, speaking of Twilight, is the release date of the first Twilight movie. Probably not the most popular vampire movie among real horror fans, but like I said, Twilight really started the trend on TV and movies. So, and like I said, she is just beautiful. I love Sabatha, and she was one of the last dolls for me to get because she is so highly sought after, and she tends to go for a lot of money. But luckily, I was able to get her for $72, so that's not bad. And that is Sabatha Blood. Oh, wait. Here's her chipboard. Ooh. Okay. Next, and last but not least, is, my opinion, the MVD doll, Orchid. Orchid she is my favorite of Series 19. She was one of the... I can't remember if I got Sabatha or her last. I can't remember. Now, I don't have her chipboard on hand, so here, I'll insert her chipboard. Now her death day doesn't correlate with any vampire media. I looked, and I'm not sure if her dress is accurate to the year she passed. Her year is 1607. She reminds me of Jubilee, honestly, with her style of dress. And Jubilee, she passed in the 1800s, and that's what her outfit reminds me of. Now, Orchid is an interesting doll in that she was already made in a different form as a rag doll. So she was one of 4 rag dolls, but one of 2 that were made into a 10-inch doll, the other one being Jeepers. And she comes with this yarn hair, pigtails, and she has these knitted stockings, these pleathered material shoes, and this crinkly dress. She's really cute. Unfortunately, my Orchid ragdoll is missing her hand tag, and here's a picture of that. Now, the little poem that's in her hand tag is actually in the doll's death certificate. And the doll is pretty much spot on of the rag doll in terms of the outfit, with the exception of the hair, which it is curious that it's very similar to Jubilee, but they at least did well to take care of the bang situation, because Jubilee's bangs are awful. I really wish they went with the bows that the ragdoll had. The ragdoll had fabric bows. And her dress is a little stiff, but it doesn't feel cheap. And she has this little tool underneath her dress to give it a little volume. Again, look at the little lace socks right on her feet. Like, how cute is that? And my favorite thing about her, I love these curls. I love these pin curls, which again, a little better than Jubilee. And she, again, is one of the most popular ones of, like I said, her and Sabatha Blood, it's a two-way tie, I feel. And for her, I paid $80. She can go from anywhere from $150 to $250, possibly more. Now, many fans believe that she is based on Claudia from Interview with a Vampire. I could see it. I'm not sure if that has been confirmed, but I don't see why it wouldn't be true, because again, it's another little girl as a vampire. And the funny thing about her is that she can't drink blood. It makes her sick. So, poor thing. You're damned to an eternity, and you can't even eat the food that's supposed to keep you alive. So that's so sad about Orchid. But she is such a beautiful doll. I mean, look at this face. So she was given painted on fangs. Okay. And again, like, just beautiful. And like I said, that is the MVD doll of Series 19. Now on to the variants. Now, this will be well, right after the Halloween variants of Series 18. This is another variant set. This time it's black and white, which, makes sense about being black and white. And I feel like, again, this wasn't like a lazy design that, oh, just a color. They actually did something different to distinguish it significantly from the original series. So we're going to start with Ahana again. Now, Ahana is the only one of the series that doesn't have a stake. Okay? Her dress is a lighter color. She has a black dress. Black coat. And gray tights, same shoes. And she has this white hair. And she actually looks more intense in comparison to the OG, which you see behind her. And she actually looks more horrifying with the new design. But basically, they kept the same the blood on the face and the teeth. But it definitely changes the doll a bit. You know, it actually makes her a little different in terms of a character, which I appreciate. Okay, and that's Ahana. I love Sanguis's variant. Now she looks even more crazed with this version. So they removed the color from her eyes, so it's more white, and then you have these red pupils, which I thought was very interesting. She has a stake in the chest, like the others. You cannot remove the stake. It's not like Lilith, who has a removable stake. She has a white fan with a black sulfur symbol. Real cute. And she has blood. They really went crazy with the blood on her, especially all white. And white lace socks. But she even got blood on the legs. I didn't mention the bob hair. So this is the thing that annoys me a little bit with Living Dead dolls and their variants. I didn't experience it with Series 9's variants. The series with Dawn and Toxic Molly. But I've noticed with the variants over the different series, they seem to cheap out on the hair. Now, her hair feels much thinner than the original Sanguis's hair. And I don't know why, especially since it's a limited production run. Series 19 variants are limited to 375 sets. And I don't know why they cheaped out on the hair, but it's very noticeable. And she has again, everything's the same in terms of the quality of the outfit. It's just the hair is really curious. I forgot to mention that her pillbox hat is held with this little strap, but it is losing its elasticity, but it won't disintegrate like many dolls who have hats attached to them with plastic fasteners. But she's still a great doll. I can't complain. I do love the white with her. Okay. I forgot to mention with Ahana, and I'll mention it with her. So with the variants, I'm not sure of the original price of the 375 sets what they went for. They're available only through Mezco Direct. And each of the variants do have a wide range of prices. So for Ahana, I paid $180 and she was open but complete. And she can go from $125 to $250. Sanguis, I got her for $187. She was sealed and she can go from $125 to $250. Okay. Next is Haymon. Now Haymon also comes with the stake, but he's missing the cross. That's the biggest difference between the two. He still has the same blood on his neck, on his face. His eyes are different. A little bit more menacing, more blood in his eyes. But that's about it. Nothing really drastically different. He's another one. I bought him for $115 sealed. He can go from $100 to $200. Okay, and that is Haymon. I feel bad. I don't really have much to say because, again, compared to the ladies, he's very plain. Okay, and next is Sabatha. Now, again, as I mentioned, her costume looks exactly like the girl in the Saya, the vampire hunter. So definitely that's where they got her black and white. Now, she also has that hair problem Like, it's very thin. Like, you see the balding here. And I just don't understand. And that's something I wanted to share with you, especially if you're a new collector and you are intrigued by Series 19. I just want you to know, especially if you're an out-of-box or out-of-coffin collector like myself, just what to expect. I paid for her $350, and that was at the Chiller Theater. Actually, Damien sold her to me at the Chiller Theater, and she goes from $300 to $500. So she's very expensive. And again, she has the stake, and she has blood from the stake that you actually could see on her outfit. It's very little, but she has a little blood there. And again, the outfit quality is the same. It's just the hair. I just don't understand the hair. And her face also hasn't really changed dramatically from her original. I feel like the eyebrows might be a little different. Yes, it looks like the eyebrows are different. But again, beautiful, beautiful doll. Glad I have her in my collection. But again, just want to give you the heads up about that. And that's not the only time Mezco continues to do that. One of their resurrections definitely has a production flaw, and I'll get to that when I talk about that particular resurrection series. And of course, last but not least is Orchid. Oh my God, isn't she beautiful? Oh my God, she's gorgeous. Now, the thing I didn't like about Orchid, I shouldn't say like, more like a quibble. The little rubber bands, I wish they put black in the rubber bands. At least the rubber bands in her original, had some color. I felt like they should have made them like white. But again, it looks like that cheap plastic. Eventually that would disintegrate. But her hair actually is not too bad. That the hair quality actually kept the same along with her dress. I mean, isn't she beautiful? And like even the face, I don't think is that dramatic, but she has these white eyebrows that definitely makes her a little more sinister, because it looks like she doesn't have any. Really cute. Oh, I love her. And she was the last one that I bought in my collection, because again, she was really hard to find. And I actually was able to get her for a really good price. I got her for $300 open, but she was complete. She can go from $500 to $600. So that is Series 19. Or is it? I know the elephant in the room, Claret Winter, the chase doll that came with Series 19. Well, you won't believe this, because I certainly did not. I was able to get my hands on a Claret Winter. And I'm going to share my thoughts and my feelings about her. I actually had her since May, but I didn't share it because I didn't want to ruin the surprise for my channel. Now, she recently went on auction on eBay. So I didn't buy her from a seller that set the price. Pretty much the price I paid is what the market determined for her. So here's her chipboard. So I'm going to be honest, I paid $90 for her. That's a lot of money. Now, because when I first started buying Living Dead dolls, especially through eBay, eBay has changed in terms of how you can pay for things. So in the past, when it came to Claret Winter, I couldn't buy her straight away for the prices that she was going for. Several years ago, I could have bought her for $375 sealed, and I didn't. I really, at the time, I thought that was a lot of money for the dolls, which, joke's on me, I end up paying a little bit more for dolls as the years have gone by. And so But it was a lot of money to put on a credit card, and it just wasn't responsible. I'm not a rich person. I think a lot of collectors, whether it's Living Dead dolls, Barbie, or anything like that, they're not rich. And so I feel like I want to share that with a doll like this, of what I paid. If you call it responsible, I'm on a payment plan for her. There's a service called Klarna through eBay, and so I was able to swing the payments for her every month, once a month, and I will be paying for her for 2 years to pay her off. But she's not on a credit card, and that's something to really contend with overall. And when it comes to collecting, you really had to be responsible and really assess, like, can you afford to put the price of something as expensive as Claret or any other of the dolls of Living Dead dolls, or anything in your collection. And I feel like, for me, using a credit card is always my it's really not something I want to use. Credit card debt is really bad, especially in these day and times. So for Claret, honestly, if I didn't have a service at my disposal like Klarna, I probably would not have bought her again. Another opportunity I would have missed out on her. But I'm really happy, but it's also a little bit bittersweet. I hated that I paid so much for her because she's a beautiful doll. Let me go into her her design. Now, with Claret, she reminds me a lot of Interview with a Vampire. I'm sorry, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie. Um, the character of Lucy. When she became a vampire and when she died, she was buried in this bridal dress. And I just felt like Claret reminds me a lot of that design. It looks bridal, this dress. And she has this beautiful hair. I love her curly hair. It can get uncontrollable, but I just took her out of the coffin for this video. She has been in the coffin since I first bought her. And I kept her in the coffin because I actually wanted to put her in this special coffin. And that's how she's going to be displayed. If you're interested, this is from Michael's. They used to sell it online, but because it arrived damaged, they stopped selling it. So you would have to look for it in stores. Definitely check it out. They have it now because they put out all their Halloween stuff out. So definitely go look for that. And that's the biggest coffin size that will fit a Living Dead doll. And like I said, she is a beautiful doll. She really is. I'm happy to have her. But again, there's collectors that have multiples of her, and that's what really drives up the price. And it's infuriating, it's frustrating, and just, I just want you to know, as someone who has been collecting Living Dead dolls for quite a few years, I know your frustrations, and I feel like, again, shop around, be patient for most of these dolls. But even for me, I was being patient and was shopping around, and sometimes the collectors themselves, they're the ones driving up the prices because they are gatekeeping her. And I have dolls that are more rare than she is, and I didn't pay anywhere near what she goes for. I have the complete Resurrection 8. 2 sets of Resurrection 8. Each doll is only 50 of them made, and I was able to get all of them in a short amount of time, least amount of money than it took just to get her. Okay? But again, I'm happy to have her in my collection. She is gorgeous. She's really gorgeous. So in case you don't know, she glows in the dark. And she also has painted on fangs. And the curious thing I found when I took her out of the coffin, her head is very weak. I'm not sure what it is. So if you do get her, open her, I don't know if it's my experience, but her head seems very fragile. And, I could gently move her up and down, but I feel like she doesn't have a bit as resistant movement as these dolls behind her, excuse me. And that worries me. So definitely, unfortunately, she's not going to be displayed with my Series 19 dolls. It's just too much of a risk of her falling. And like she's going to be on a shelf in that glass coffin, which I am going to jazz up. I'm going to jazz up that glass coffin. She doesn't come with any shoes, which I'm kind of disappointed. She doesn't come with shoes. Now, she's the only Living Dead doll that. So, Living Dead dolls has done both vampires and zombies, which I'll talk about later with Series 22. And what's unique about her is that she actually has the death date of when she died and then the day she rose from the dead. Only doll to have that. And so her death date was on Christmas in 1890. And the curious thing is that date, December 25th, 1890, is actually the birthday of Robert Ripley, who created the franchise Ripley's Believe It or Not, which I thought was kind of curious. And the day she rose as a vampire is January 1st, 1891. And, like I said, I'm happy I have her. She's gorgeous. It's been a search of mine, and I've had that the closest call I was able to get her for a reasonable price back then was $375, and I missed out on that. And that's the thing. Unfortunately, when it comes to her, it's really collectors that are really driving her price up, and I do not see it going down unless another financial crisis like COVID happens. And to be honest, a lot of dolls that I did get later in my collection of Living Dead dolls, I got through COVID, so I was able to get really good deals. Claret was not one of them, unfortunately. But the thing is, when I bought her on eBay, she, the market decided her price. So it was an auction and I participated. So to me, it wasn't the seller who set the price. And he was really cool about the care of her. Like, he sent this doll, first, free shipping. You have no idea how it irks me how many times I've seen her listed for like over $1,000, and they have the audacity to add shipping. Like, how greedy can you get? I mean, again, I never sold on eBay. I sold one thing on eBay years ago, so I don't know how much eBay keeps of the money a seller makes from an auction or a sold item. But again, adding whether it's $15 to $20 shipping, I just think that's so unnecessary, especially if you're starting out charging like $1,500 for a doll. There's a listing of Claret for $3,500, and the seller has the audacity to tack on shipping. It's ridiculous. And so, I hate to draw on, but I just want to be realistic with you. I want to be real. As a fellow collector who's been collecting these dolls for such a long time, I just want you to know that I know your frustration. And I share it with you. And I'm not saying you have no right to be frustrated. You should be frustrated. It's really, it makes the collection or making collecting of anything, it puts a damper on it, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful to have the dolls that I have, including this beauty here. And and the series 19 overall as a series, it is a phenomenal series. Again, one of my top 5. I would give it 5 full sulfur symbols across the board. And again, all these dolls are wonderful. And again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I just want you to be patient and most importantly, be responsible. You know, at the end, you know, you have to be the one to deal with the payments and whatnot. So definitely, you know, if you can find a way to manage to buy a doll like her or any type of toy or whatever you are collecting, just be responsible. Because remember, life situations changes, um, and you just have to be smart about how you go in collecting or acquiring these dolls, just as a fellow collector to another. And so that is series 19. Again, I hope I wasn't too boring with Claret Winter, but I just wanted to be honest with you and really voice the frustration I've had over the years trying to get her. And I hope you have a better luck in getting her for cheaper. I I wish nothing but fellow collectors to have the best of luck. I mean, I have been burned before that I would pay a certain amount of money for a doll, and then 2 months down the road, someone got her for way less than I did. You know, and sometimes I've had those lucks too, and that's something I had to keep reminding myself, that I've had lucks in terms of some of the dolls that I have bought at the prices I was able to get them for in comparison to others. So that's how you have to keep it. You know, as a collecting community, you know, we just have each other to share our hobbies, because a lot of people outside of collecting, whether it's dolls, Transformers, GI Joes, or whatever it is you may collect, they don't understand. And I feel to promote cynicism or toxicity, it's not good. You know, we collect things because we love the joy it brings us. And so, with that being said, do your research. And as always, once again, thank you so much for watching. And if you made it through the end of this video, bless you. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. This will probably be my longest video, I promise. But again, it's with really heartfelt sincerity. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. And as always, happy hunting.